All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Wednesday, June 11th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. And this is All in Horns. Jumping right into it today. Yesterday, we talked about Sean Miller's press conference at the SEC Coaches Conference. I know it happened a couple weeks ago. We're covering it now. We were backlogged with softball, baseball, all sorts of different things going on. Now that the athletic season is essentially over in college sports, Jake and I are finally getting back to things that we wanted to talk about earlier or a couple weeks ago, just never got the chance to. Sometimes those things happen. Yesterday, we talked about Sean Miller's press conference and his address at the coaches conference. Today, it's going to be Steve Sarkisian and his press conference and our reaction to it from a couple weeks ago at the SEC Coaches Conference. Sean Miller talked a lot about retention and kind of what his plans are at the Texas program and the reasons why he decided to take the head coaching job at Texas. Steve Sarkisian, he talked a little bit of a different tone in terms of just where college football is going to be and what the conversations have been had at the SEC level and any conversations that he's been a part of or ideas that he might have as to where college football may be in a couple of years from now. First of all, wanted to just shout out Steve Sarkisian, looking slim, fit Sark, hungry Sark for, he might have lost some weight, but he's still hungry for a championship. But looked good up there, Jake. Looked real good. I'm not sure if the first lady of Texas has him on a certain diet or anything, but whatever he's doing, he needs to keep it up.
Yeah, he was looking slimmer last year as well. It feels like he just keeps getting in better shape, and maybe just running around in that Texas heat, just bringing that weight down every single year.
Possible.
But yeah, no, good to see Sark looking fit and healthy because he needs to be at the helm of the program for a long time to come.
Hey, maybe that had something to do with it. But he did mention something, Jake, very early on. And I think it was in his opening remarks, maybe before a question was even asked. But, he mentioned the length of the college football schedule now and the importance of making sure your players are healthy at the end of the year and limiting snap counts more so than ever before because these guys aren't NFL players. But he quoted saying, "We may never see an undefeated national champion again, having to play 16 to 17 games in a season." And Jake, do you think that we'll see an undefeated team? We saw Oregon come close to it. They were within the first year of the 12-team playoff that had the potential of doing it, but then they got the doors blown off of them and didn't even win a playoff game.
And also what goes in with this is the consolidation of the conferences. And, if the SEC adds that ninth conference game, which I think we both support, it's going to get even harder for an SEC champion to have that an undefeated season. Will we never see it again? I imagine we'll see it again at some point. You're going to see a team that is just unstoppable like that LSU team. But even the LSU team came very close to losing several games, including to Texas. And so they had some close games along the way.
Not Oklahoma.
Not Oklahoma. But will we ever see it happen again? Probably. Is it going to be common? No, I think it'll be very uncommon that we see one, especially when you have the Ohio States and the Texas of the world scheduling each other early in the season. I mean, Ohio State or Texas is going to have a loss right off the bat to start the season. That I think we're going to, unfortunately, probably start seeing less of those games being played in the non-conference because of the way the playoff currently works. And that's one of those things that has to get sorted out. But will we ever see it again? Probably, but it will be to me a very rare occurrence. So once every 10 to 15 years occurrence.
It will be considered, whoever that team is, will be considered one of the greatest teams in college football history.
the first team that does it will probably instantly get talked about as the best team of all time.
I mean, and that happens all the time. The Michigan team 2 years ago was talked about as one of the greatest teams of all time, like as soon as they won the national championship. And I was like, they don't hold a candle to the 2001 Miami team. They don't hold a candle to the 2005 Texas team or even the 2004 USC team. The 2019 LSU. They don't compare to any of those teams that I just mentioned.
Well, the Steve Sarkisian Bama team, where he was the OC, that destroyed it.
Yeah,
that had just the dumbest amount of talent on the field.
It was a COVID year, but the amount of talent, I don't think it would have mattered.
They were beating everyone by 40.
Yeah.
And so the LSU team, I mean, the
Deshaun Watson, Clemson teams. I mean, those teams were really good.
I think the last, one thing that NIL has brought, I mean, we've had multiple different national champions in recent years.
Yep.
And I don't think, I mean, maybe some of those Georgia teams, just because their defenses were so dominant. But the last, at least couple national champions, I don't think have been, especially as a full body of work, some of the best college football teams ever. Was Ohio State playing that level of football down the stretch? Yes. But as a full body of work, they still have that disgusting Michigan loss on their resume. And when you talk about best teams of all time, the full resume has to be put on display.
100% agreed, Jake. Steve Sarkisian said that the powers that be are having healthy and open discussions about the best way to figure out this version of college football, how it should work. But something that is not being talked about is the issue of the playoff system, which are the fans. So things that are not being talked about in the current playoff system are fans. He mentioned Texas fans are having to choose right now. Well, do we travel to Atlanta to go see the SEC title game, or do we save the money, stay in Austin for the first round game of Clemson? But if they win that SEC title game, they don't have a first round game against Clemson, and then they're staying in Atlanta. And then after the Clemson game, do they have the money and do they have the logistics to travel back to Atlanta for the Arizona State game? The logistics and the cost of travel and all of those sorts of things that play into what the playoff system is currently looking like, take away from your fans being at these games, even the home game. I don't think anybody would claim that Texas's game against Clemson was the best home environment that we've seen Texas have, not against the likes of having hosting an Alabama or even a Georgia at DKR. I wouldn't say it compared to that.
I still think that game had an incredible environment. I don't think the home playoff games are the issue. To me, I look at that Arizona State-Texas game where I thought Arizona State had a better showing than Texas did. I think the crowd was probably 60-70% Arizona State because those fans were hungry to go to that game because, they're not there as often. And Texas fans were looking at as I'm not going to pay all this money to travel back down to Atlanta. I just traveled there for an SEC championship game. Travel back down, and then a game that most Texas fans are going, Texas should win this. I want to go to the Cotton Bowl for the semifinal and not that. And I think that's what you're going to see. Now, if you're an A&M, if you're an OU, you don't have to worry about this conversation because if you're in the quarterfinals, that will be unfamiliar territory for you at this point. OU less so than A&M, but you'll be like, I got to go to that game because we may never get here again.
Yeah.
But for a Texas, if you're sitting there and you're going, especially if it's a game you should win on paper, I think fans, just like we just saw, especially if it's not a Rose Bowl, if it's just a game in Atlanta, for Texas, sit there and go, why go to this when I can go to a semifinal game that Texas should be in because they should beat this Arizona State team?
I want to bring this to your attention as something that Steve Sarkisian brought up himself, and I actually had never even thought about this idea, and I kind of like it, to be honest with you. I think it could bring some big-time things. Again, the money of these other stadiums and sponsors, they'll have to figure something out along those lines, but a lot of other sports, especially in college sports, have a central venue in which their tournament is played. Softball, baseball, basketball with March Madness. You might do other regions, but when it comes down to the actual final tournament, there's one central location where all these games are played. Does college football move to that where you have 2 games played, an afternoon game and an evening game, and then tomorrow at the same venue, 2 other games are played, afternoon, evening, and you kind of just have a Saturday, Sunday package of college football games at, say, AT&T Stadium for the final, 8 teams that are sitting there. And then, maybe you move it to I don't know. What do you think about that?
So here's the terrifying thought of that for me is football is not basketball or some of these other sports. You are going to have 60 to 100,000 people at each of these games. The cost would probably go up even more. And the ability to even find a hotel would be more difficult. I think you'd start to probably see surrounding towns in cities that are a little further away. And then this drive in would probably see a little bit of an economic boom. So that to me is logistically the only thing about that is with football, you just have so many more people.
Yeah.
Especially having 2 games at one stadium in one day. I don't know what that logistically looks like, getting the stadium back prepped, for 80,000 fans to come back in.
Mhm.
But I do like the idea. I would say that why not have it to where all the way through the quarterfinals, the top seed has a home game, and then you get to the semifinals and you're at one venue for the semifinals, and then you're at either that same venue for the championship or a different venue for the championship game.
Yeah.
And that makes it to where it is a lot more reasonable for fans of teams to see because you're either going on a road trip to see a road team, see your team play on the road because you weren't good enough to host that year, or you're getting your season ticket prices for season ticket holders to go to the playoff games. And so that to me, I think kind of a combo of what Sark said plus what I'm saying with just having more home playoff
Yeah.
games
Yeah.
makes the most sense. Having all these neutral site games, it gets completely unreasonable. And you saw that. In what other world does Arizona State show up more as a fan base to a football game compared to Texas?
Yeah.
Then in a situation where Texas fans are going, I just am not paying to go to this because I will choose to go to the semifinal game that I think we will be in,
Right.
versus going back to Atlanta where I just was 2 weeks ago for an SEC title game, which also brings in the whole conversation of at this point, I have said it, get rid of conference title games. Some people may hate that. It's just if you're going to an expanded playoff, it doesn't make sense, especially when you're adding in, to Steve Sarkisian's point, another neutral site game.
Yeah. And neutral sided games are just tough to play. And I don't know. To me, it brings down the environment and the feel and that college atmosphere that makes
Not
college
the Rose
football
Bowl.
so great. Yeah. Not the road.
If it was my choice, it would be home games until the semis and championship, everything at the Rose Bowl. That would be
I
it.
would say, or if you want to go just the championship game at the Rose Bowl every year, and then the other big stadiums, whether it be the Georgia Dome or AT&T, be the semifinal games, and then home
Yeah,
games.
or do Rose Bowl semifinal way, but I would always have the Rose Bowl in
I'm
the
saying
rotation.
national championship stays at the Rose Bowl every
Oh yeah,
year, no matter what. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, but that'll never happen because, as we have heard from other sources, not enough suites
yeah.
at the Rose Bowl,
Which
which
is
is
a
the most
horrible reason.
nauseating answer
Yeah,
possible.
it honestly makes me sick to my stomach. Whenever we're commissioners of the NCAA, Jake, we will put the fans first. We can almost guarantee that. So, one thing that he said that the discussions within those discussions are also the difficulties of having players declare for the portal while also playing in the playoffs. And Steve Sarkisian, he himself, which I think being the head coach of Texas probably carries a little bit of weight in having these discussions. He wants to move the portal window back. Now, he doesn't know necessarily the best time frame, but he's thinking like right after the college football playoffs is over, the moment national championship game ends, that portal window is open and for everybody. And that's kind of his best explanation for it. And I think that probably would work best and would have to be the main reason why. And but yeah, it's tough. It's a tough conversation, but having players, backup players, quarterbacks that are trying to make life-changing decisions while their team is playing in a quarterfinal playoff game, and like, look, It's either I'm going to be a starter here or I'm going to be a backup here, and this is my best chance to be that starter over there. I've got to make that decision right now while I'm still trying to be committed to this team and this run that we've been on.
Penn State.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the easy one right away. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's still school. That is a real thing. But can you make it to where you enroll at a different school? You're still on the right. I don't know, but Sarkisian is right. However you do it, the portal window has to be moved.
It does.
It's not done it's not a good situation for both players and coaches right now.
Yeah. Jake, one thing that he said that I really liked about just talking about the players and really, whether that be, off season, spring training, you get spring football and camp or whatever you want to call it, training camp compared to having a spring game. These players are getting paid and they're getting paid handsomely, but he also said the development of these players does not look like the NFL. You can't just say, just do things like the NFL because we've got 21 incoming freshmen trying to learn how to get into their stance. Our development looks very differently than the NFL just because the development takes a lot longer. These are very less developed players coming into college football than they are going into the NFL. They're starting at bare basics. How do you line up? What's the best? Am I getting in a 3-point stance? Do I line up with my right foot or my left foot in front of me? A lot of these players are still at the very bare basics of their football careers. And so the development looks a lot different. It takes a lot more time. So you can't just do OTAs, spring training, training camp, and then boom, let's play a 17-game season and restart the whole process next year. It just looks a little bit different.
Yeah, because
that was a perspective that I guess I hadn't really ever thought about in terms of changing that portal window and things like that.
I think it's because we come from being in the state of Texas, where a lot of players do come a little bit more developed than most other states, just because of the infrastructure that is in place in the state of Texas. With having an athletic period, coaches get a lot more time with their players. There's a lot more development that goes on in middle school, high school in Texas than other states. Well, not all your recruits are coming from the state of Texas. You have Florida, where there is no designated athletic period and they're not allotted as much time. And a lot of players who come in from Florida come in just physical freaks. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the actual fundamental side, there's a lot of development that has to be done there to get them ready to play at that level. And so that is a good point by Sarkisian.
Louisiana teams typically don't even have an assistant coaching staff. They're typically pulling volunteers like you would your Pee Wee League of parents who are like, yeah, I know a thing or two. I played high school ball.
Go watch the Justice Terry film and watch the competition he's playing against. Then go watch, Allen High School and the teams they're playing. It looks like a completely different league.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gets lost sometimes, is how much development there really has to be. And there's a reason why most players now are starting to be early enrollees. I mean, I think all but 3 or 4 of this last class for Texas were early enrollees.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to see those types of numbers, if not 100% of players be early enrollees.
One of whom was playing baseball, but now Jonah Williams probably full all aboard the Texas train on football. I would assume he's just
probably has a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
Because he was.
But I can imagine he's now in the football locker room.
Yeah, he's probably trying to get whatever information he can from other players to get caught up so he can be on the field in his first year on football like he was in baseball.
But Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. I thought his interview was very enlightening. Again, a lot of it was more so the logistics of what college football is going to look like, not so much where he is at as a program, because I think the entire country is well aware of where Texas is as a football program. So with that being said, that is Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we will continue to give you daily content of all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, huck 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.